Hi all, welcome back to Stationeers. So if you didn't see the last one, we kind of visited traders. Bit of a random episode to be fair, it was just something different. We probably won't touch back on to traders via this tutorial series to be honest, because you've pretty much seen the basics. So from there you should be able to kind of go a little bit bigger, go a little bit more advanced, and just have a play with it. Figure it out. It's part of the fun of the game. You don't need me to tell you any more than the basics. So I was thinking about what I should be kind of going through next with you, and it occurred to me that we've got our furnace, which is absolutely fine. It works. We have a centrifuge, which is great, but there is an upgrade to it, and both of those things, so the furnace and the upgraded centrifuge, both require fuel. So I figured, why don't we get onto some gas mixing? It feels like a good as place as any. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a system, and we're going to have a couple of ice crushers going into tanks, and we're going to just mix it. And that way we've got a fuel source for whatever we want, really. It'll come in helpful, like I said, for furnaces, so we don't have to dabble with the ices in the furnace anymore. We'll be able to get the upgraded centrifuge, at which point maybe we look at automating on mining, so we don't have to do as much mining anymore. And then way later down the line you can use it for water production, and you could also eventually start using it for rocket fuel. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but yeah, that's kind of what we're going to do now. We're going to do some fuel mixing. So the first thing I'm going to do, as always, is we're going to want a platform. Now we can put our gas storage outside. As long as we insulate the system, it doesn't have to be inside. So let's not worry about bringing it in here. Eventually we're going to want to pressurize the space so we don't have to wear our suit all the time. But yeah, let's not make that any worse than it needs to be. Let's get a nice area set up out here. I went and mined some silicon because we are going to need it for the insulated stuff. So let me just quickly get this smelted. It won't take too long. Get that fired up. We are good. There's our heat. To crack this in. Yeah, we should be able to get all this done. Silicon is one of those that requires the most heat to be processed, and as a result, it also uses a lot of heat. So I think I mentioned it before, like if you're processing loads of ingots, do your silicon first, because after that you may need to invest in a bit more ice or fuel, whatever you're doing. So we've got a fair few frames here, so let's stop that. That should be fine. Do I have any steel sheets? I have 10. Wow, would you look at that? And the silicon needs to go into our organized ore pile. Ingot pile, sorry. So, when it comes to gas mixing, obviously you're going to need a place to store the gas. So we're going to make ourselves a couple more of the insulated tanks. Copper, steel, and silicon. I've got loads of steel, we've just got the silicon, and we got loads of copper last time. So for now, I'm going to make 3 tanks. One of them is going to hold... Actually, you know what? We're going to do 4 tanks. One of them is going to hold volatile. One of them is going to hold oxygen. One of them is going to hold the fuel. And another one is going to hold nitrogen. Because nitrogen is going to be a byproduct of our processing of oxygen. So we're going to need a few of these. So I'm going to need more silicon in there. This is why I went to get it, because I knew I was going to need loads. To the point where I may still not have enough because we need loads of pipes as well afterwards. But yeah, we're going to go 4 tanks. And this will just be the start of a gas processing area. Once we have the tanks, we're then going to need a couple of ice crushers. Now you've seen these before. We've got one in the greenhouse. Pretty sure it's made in the pipe bender. Can't quite remember. Yep, pipe bender. So we need to wait for these tanks. And also, like, remember with gas storage, you don't have to use a tank. We could just very easily just use pipe network, put some utilities on like we did in the greenhouse to make it a little bit bigger. I'm just using tanks because it just makes me feel organized, that's all. So I'm going to go for 2 ice crushers. You don't have to use 2. You could be clever and use 1 and then just have it multi-purpose, but I don't want to get into that kind of advanced kind of icy stuff. Oh, we've got a storm. Perfect. Just what we want. Yeah, so we're going to have 2 ice crushers. Both of those, I believe, use iron sheets. They do. Do we have any iron sheets? I don't think I do. I think I used them all. That's fine. Let's get some iron sheets made. 1 per ice crusher. 1, 2. Thank you kindly. There's our second ice crusher. Perfect. But then we're going to need quite a few pipes. So let's go for, I don't know, 20, I guess. Why the hell not? I mean, we've only got enough silicon for 24. So you know what? I will quickly go out and do some more mining just on the off chance I need any more. I will be right back. I want to get this done before that storm hits. Right, so let's get this process in the furnace. I've just vented the bloody thing, so yep, this is a bit of a waste, but what can you do? Is that melted? I think so. Yeah, there we go. Nice and hot. Right, let's see if we can get all of this processed. And I'm going to make sure I pick it straight up because we have got that storm incoming. So you just need to bear that in mind. We just got that. I think we were just about to hit the temperature where it won't process. We did good. Okay, there's all our pipes. Let me quickly get these picked up. Right, silicon goes on the floor. And you. Nope, on the floor. Right, so we got our pipes, we've got our ice crushers. We're then going to need a mixer to get one of these made. And the last thing is, and this is going to split some people. So when mixing gases, and we'll touch on it a little bit later, you need to either be really bloody clever, which I'm not, or you need to make the temperature of anything you're mixing the same. And to do that, we're just going to use something called a heat exchanger, which I can make. So it's this large one here that you want. I need some Invar, which I have. There are a couple of different sizes. Let me go back onto that. The counterflow is basically 2 gases or liquids or whatever, kind of traveling in opposite directions, and they will heat exchange with each other. You then got a small one, which we're not going to use because realistically it doesn't really do anything. But the large one is the one we're going to go for. Quite expensive. It uses 10 Invar. But at this point, you should be able to make Invar on the fly if needed. You should be fine. I think, to be honest, that might be it, because we don't have to automate this to begin with. Let's get it set up so you can kind of see how basic and easy it is, and then we'll go from there. Actually, one thing that I do want to do, save some power, is I would like a writer, if I have one. Don't know if you can remember, but in the greenhouse, we set the ice crusher so it would process instantly, and we want that same thing to happen here. So we're going to want a writer and a memory. And if you are playing, well, if you're watching this after the update's gone out, you don't need to do this anymore, because the ice crushers in the new version have a dial built in. which is kind of nice. But what we're going to do is just set the ice crushers to the setting they need to be on. But yeah, we'll cover that now. So, let me get a platform made. Now, you kind of want to think about roughly where you're going to place this. I'm going to put it here because my plan is to keep the furnace where it is. And we'll put the deep drawer somewhere here as well with the centrifuge later. So for now, I'm going to make a bit of a platform somewhere like this. And what we'll do is make it a 2x4. Yeah, that'll be fine, just for what we're doing. I need to put the tanks down. So we're going to place the tanks with the ports all facing the same way. There we go. And then we're going to have our ice crushers. So we're going to have one ice crusher. You know what? I'm going to put the ice crusher slightly off. So let me put the ice crusher here. Right at the end. Again, the layout doesn't really matter. It's just personal preference, really. I'm going to have an ice crusher there. And an ice crusher there. Let me quickly weld this up. Looking at this now, I do not have enough pipes, so we are going to sort that out. Oh, and my welder has run out. Before I started this recording, I did print myself some large batteries. So I've got some batteries on tap. It's definitely worth doing that. Just make them from the electronics printer, and that way you always have a full battery when needed. Okay. So that's that. So let's get the ice crushers welded. So we'll grab our iron sheets, and then I think we need cable and coil. Oh no, just coil. There we go. There's our ice crushers. You've seen these before. We've got one in the greenhouse. I don't need to go through how they work. What I am going to do is I'm going to get a batch writer. This is temporary. We will whip this up afterwards. And we are going to need to get that wired up to both power and obviously there's our data connection there. I'm going to go put up some cables. And then I think at some point soon we're going to get a storm. So what I'm going to do is just print off a few other bits that I need. And then I'll bring you back after the storm has been and gone. Okay, so the storm is finished. So what we're going to do is head back out and carry on with the build. First thing I'm going to do is I made a locker. And I'm just going to shove this here for now. It's kind of in the way of my weather station. You know what? Not the best choice. So let me move that. And we'll just, I mean, I guess it can go anywhere. So let's put it over here. Yes, it's floating a little bit, but yeah, it's fine. So I've made some things. So I've got some pipes. I've got a gas mixer. So that is made in the pipe bender. I've got the atmospherics, which you've already seen. So that is also made in the pipe bender. I've got a transformer, which we're going to keep on us. We've not touched on that yet, so we'll touch it in a second. We've got the heat exchanger, some additional frames, and some normal pipes. They're just going to be for like finishing off buildings or structures or whatever. I've also printed out some additional cables, a couple of nitrogen filters, which are made in the pipe bender, and also some spray paint. Spray paint is made in your tool maker. If you have a look and just type paint, there are a variety of colors you can choose from, and you could paint almost everything in the game. So you should really be painting your cables. So obviously I haven't done that, but you would paint each network a different color, so you know not to cross them. You would probably want to paint your output of your battery with the heavy cable, and then you'll want to paint the input another color. Oh dearie me, look what we've done. So if you remember what I said a little while ago, the solar panels take damage from storms, and I showed you how to repair them. And this is what happens if you don't repair them. They are pooped. So I'm going to repair the 2 that I have left. I just got lucky with these 2 surviving. But remember, you can just dismantle and put them back. It works absolutely fine. Same with you. But yeah, these ones that are dead are dead. You can't do anything with them. They are nothing but scrap. So get your angle grinder. And there you go. You've got some wreckage. I don't even think you could put wreckage in the recycler. I'm pretty sure it's just done. It's dead. It's waste. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that won't give me anything. Oh, it did. It's giving me trace amounts of everything I can't use because the amounts are too small. But yeah, there you go. So make sure that after every single storm, you are repairing your panels. The same is said for the flat one that we had. Same thing. Takes damage. Fix it or lose it. I'm just going to chuck him over there because I don't like recycling. Yeah, sorry. So back to paint. So yeah, you've got multiple colors and you want to be painting your networks. You could paint your machines, your frames, your walls, whatever. You would normally want to use paint to stay organized. So my idea here is going to be one crusher is going to be for volatile. The other crusher is going to be for oxide. And so I don't get it mixed up, we're going to paint that one red. We're going to paint that one white. So now I have a visual representation of which is for which. Obviously, it doesn't mean I can't still put stuff in there. I've been known to do that. So is the wife. But it just kind of gives you, like, an idea, a bit of a helping hint as, like, look, this is red. Don't put oxygen in here, otherwise you're going to have a bad day. So, what I'm going to do, before I do anything else, is I want to get the ice crushers set to a low temperature so they don't take forever to process. If you can remember, we did this in the greenhouse. Process exactly the same. We're going to use a batch writer instead though, because we've got 2. I don't have to use a batch writer. I could use a normal writer and just change the pin for which crusher it's pointing at. But for now, we're fine with this. We're going to touch on the transformer. So basically, it kind of works the same as an APC in respect to splitting networks. So the input is one network, which you can see on the left-hand side with the green arrow. The output is the yellow on the right-hand side. That's pretty much where the similarities of the APC in this stop. This doesn't have a built-in battery. It's not designed for charging batteries. It's not designed as a backup power source. Its sole purpose is to reduce the amount of power that you get going on the output. So, for example, you know that the red cable, and we've touched on this before, can only handle 5,000 watts. So if I find it in here, I don't know if it told me in here. There you go. Maximum wattage is 5,000 watts. Whereas if you look at the heavy cable, this can handle 100,000 watts. So what a transformer can do is you can limit the amount of watts being passed through so you don't risk bursting the cable. Now I'm just using my left mouse here to adjust it, but you can point and shoot with the labeler as well. And I'm going to set this to 4950. Now this only goes up to 5,000. It doesn't go up any higher. But you don't want to max it out because the transformer itself also uses power. So it's good practice to, I mean, to be honest, I've always done this. I've always just left 50 watts as a bit of a backup. I don't want to max out because sometimes the cables can go too much and just pop, even though it doesn't make any sense. Welcome to Stationeers. So whatever you're trying to limit, just reduce it a little bit. So we're going to reduce it by 50 watts. On the input side, I'm going to have this as my main heavy cable. And this is going to come from the same line that I'm using, which is on the output of my batteries. So we're going to go around the centrifuge, like so. And I mean, people probably have multiple ways of doing this. The way I like to do it is I have one main line running through my base, and then transformers feeding off each individual room or each individual setup. So if I wanted to, I could turn this entire area off without affecting the rest of my base. And again, each area gets its own amount of power that it can request, no more. I'm going to turn it on, and what you'll see, it's not very bright here, but that light there is currently green, but it's not lit because there's nothing on the output that's actually trying to use power. If I could do it with my cursor, if I turn this on, you'll see that the green light lights up. So that's how you know that there's something on the output requesting power. If that's off, it means everything is either off or you've got a blow cable somewhere. Just bear that in mind. So what I want to do is I want to get the ice crushers both connected to the power. So we're going to go through the middle. Like so. There we go. And then obviously the whole point in this was to set both of those to 0 degrees Celsius. So if you remember, I have the wrong card. Got the configuration cartridge there. So if we have a look at this, remember that by default its setting is 288.15, but that means it takes time for it to warm up. It's trying to get to 15 degrees Celsius. I don't want this. I want it to process the ice instantly at 0 degrees. I could go a little bit colder if I wanted to, but remember, you look at any kind of gas, there is a point at which it becomes a liquid, and when this happens, that could risk blowing up your gas pipes. Now, I've got a lot of leeway because I'm only going to have my gas come to 0 degrees Celsius. I'm all the way over here, and it's just personal preference that I don't want to go any lower. I could if I wanted to, but I'm just not going to. I don't really have a need for it right now. 0 degrees will be more than fine. So remember that you set this to the Kelvin, so 273, and technically it's 0.15, and that will get us 0 degrees Celsius. So what we're going to do is take in the memory out to the ice crusher, and our other ice crusher in there is safe because it's on a separate network. We're not going to batch write to that. The batch writer will write out to all devices of the same type. So obviously we did it on our solar panels. So both of these crushers are the same item or same device type. So it will write to both of them. And we're going to write out to the setting. There we go. So we wrote 273.15. And now if we get our tablet, we can have a look there. Look, 273.15 on both crushers. So we're good. Now that we've written that, we can take these up because that setting will stay. We don't have to continue to write it. So save yourself some power and just get rid of the stuff you don't need. We're just going to tidy up the cable because it looks a mess now. And we'll make that a corner. Right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to connect all my tanks up to the same logic network. This is just so later down the line, we're not going to do it today. When I want to, I have easy access to read from the tanks and use that in any kind of automation that I have. So we're just going to run this all the way across. And we'll do it to there. Like so. And then connect each tank to that cable. There we go. Right, let's get onto our paint. So, with the paint, it's pretty easy. You just point and click, and that will color in whatever device you are, well, pointing at. So what I'm gonna do, and this again, paint however you want, but most people follow the gas color. So if you search for the filter, you've got all these filters, and people tend to follow these colors or whatever it is they're processing. And it's just a nice global convention, really. So white for oxygen, green for N2O, yellow for pollutant, etc., etc., etc. Fuel, I always do as orange, because I think that makes a bit of sense in my head, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be what we're doing on gas. We've got oxygen, volatile, fuel, and that's going to be nitrogen. Now, with the paints, you can also paint like your individual items. So if I grab some pipes and chuck them on the floor, and let's say we're going to go for volatile, like so, easy peasy. If you have a single item, so we've got some red pipes there, but let's say these pipes were black. Something else you can do is if you say you pick up the red pipe and you want more red pipes, simply pick up the other pipes with the color you want in your hand, and the entire stack will turn to that color. Yeah, that's pretty much that really. So you kind of saw what it did. So again, the color you have in your hand is the color that the item will change to, assuming the item can be stacked. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run my volatile pipe to my volatile crusher connected from my volatile tank. We're going to bring this up here, like so. We are going to take some of that pipe out shortly, but right now just get that connected and you're good. We're then going to connect our oxygen tank. Same thing, I want some white pipes, so let me do this. And even though I don't like to admit it because I'm not really one for doing painting, I'm basically trying to do as I say, not as I do. Painting can be really helpful, especially in the late game when you've got cables and pipes everywhere. So try and get into the habit of painting things sooner rather than later, because for me, it's now a difficult habit for me to get into. But yeah, so there we go. So we've got that all good. Now, there's something we need to consider. Obviously, I've set this up, but I'm going to have to take some of it apart because we're going to get our oxygen from oxide ice. We look at oxide, obviously a nice blue, but you can see here it contains oxygen and nitrogen. Now, we don't want nitrogen in our oxygen tank. We're going for a pure, clean gas room. So the way we're going to sort that is by putting a filtration device in between here. So between the ice crusher and between the oxygen tank. And I have one that I made earlier. So quite simply, I'm going to rip out some of the pipe. And obviously lay this out however you want. This is just how I'm doing it. But yeah, I'm going to get my filter. And I'm going to place it there. So the input is coming from the ice crusher. To be fair, it doesn't. I'll put it there. I'll put it there. And then I'm just going to put that pipe back. So next, what I want to do is get that built. So a couple of pipes, like so. And then we is going to need, I think it's cable. Yeah, cable coil in the right hand. So cable, there we go. And in both of these slots, oh, I've got the wrong filters. Gas filter, and this is the unfiltered connection. So that actually works out a little bit better because what I need to do is remove this. And we're going to have to come out here. You know what? That doesn't work better, actually. Ignore me. We're going to put nitrogen filters in here. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. What did you think this was, a tutorial? I'm going to get rid of these filters because I've made the wrong ones. I want to make oxygen filters. This is solely just because of how I've laid the system out. I haven't given myself enough room for me to be able to get the pipe where I want it. I'm going to just change it up and use different filters. It doesn't really matter. I think we'll probably end up going through these filters a little bit quicker because we're going to get more oxygen from the system than we do nitrogen. But at the end of the day, it's fine. It's not an issue. The filters are cheap enough to make anyway. So we're going to be filtering out oxygen. So the filtered comes out of this pipe here, or out of this connection. Let's get that connected back to there. And then the unfiltered, that's going to be our nitrogen. So I want some black pipe now. And let's bring this up. Like so. Can I still get to both of those filter slots? I can, so that's fine. And we're going to run that all the way across to our nitrogen tank. More pipes. And look, you can also do this. I've got one black pipe here. I can drag this pipe onto it. And now they all turn black. So it just saves you some paint. But yeah. Another thing on the paint is try not to use them inside your pressurized space. So don't use them in your greenhouse if you can help it, because they off-gas pollutant. And then you're going to want to have to get that filtered out. And obviously, we've already set up a system that filters it out. But realistically, you just don't want pollutant in there, so try to avoid it. The next thing I need is my fuel pipe. But I haven't got enough pipes. So let's get some more meat. You know what? We'll just do all of that. There go, insulated pipes. And it's going to make 28. It's fine. We can get more ingots. It's not an issue. Whilst we wait for those pipes, what's the plan next? So we now need to mix our oxygen with our volatile. But like I said before, we need both of these to be the same temperature. Now, again, people are going to say you don't have to do that. You can write some IC, which can do loads of the calculations for you. And it doesn't matter what temperature they are. And yes, you can do that. I've seen them do that. However, it would be pretty dodgy of me to tell you how to do that when I don't really understand it myself. I've got the code. I could copy and paste it in, but I'm not going to put something in a tutorial that I don't understand. So if you would like to figure out how to do that, ask in Discord or look at the wiki, or just ask somebody. They'll be able to help you. However, this is a basic tutorial for new players. I am not getting into something which I think is quite advanced. We're going to do it the newbie way to start with. And then if you want to go and improve yourself, by all means, go and do that. I'm just going to go and get myself some oxygen. Because I am almost out. Let's do that. Oh, and we want to take it out as well. It's a good idea. Also, I'm going to empty my waste tank. And remember, our potatoes are now growing by the looks of it. Well, some of them are. So we're going to want to harvest these. So you can see the difference. I've got some that have seeded. And then I've got some that are still seeding. Now I'm going to be naughty. And I'm just going to harvest all of them anyway. Bit of a waste. But it's fine. I'm not too concerned. We're going to have plenty of potatoes. And I replanted the potatoes there as well, just to keep myself a nice stock of the seeds in case the worst happens. Now, over here you'll see that I've got some decayed food. Now, I didn't get this from my potatoes. I got this from some eggs that you start with, and they decayed. I've not really gone through it. But basically, if you don't store your food correctly, this is what will happen. It will become decayed. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later, maybe next time. But if you want to look at it before then, search for the automated oven, get that guy printed, and put your potatoes in there. Let's see if you can figure that out without me having to show you. So yeah, search for automated oven, and just have a look at it, see if you can figure it out. I have many a pipe here. So let me grab these. There we go, that's the 28 that we knew it was going to make. So, our fuel line is obviously going to go into this tank. And what we need to do is we need a system in which both the oxygen and the volatile are going to exchange. So we made the heat exchanger. So let me grab that. It's a pretty big bulky device. When you scroll, you get a gas and liquid variant, a liquid and liquid variant, and a gas and gas. Because we're dealing with gas, we obviously want the gas and gas variant. So I'm going to stick this... I should probably put it over here, I think, actually. Let me get a frame. Plop. And we will just stick it over here. I'm not going to bother welding that up because realistically it ain't going to matter. So if I just stick this here. Yeah, that seems fine. And then we need to get this guy welded, and I'm pretty sure it uses normal pipes. Get the welder. Yeah, I need normal pipe. And my wrench. And then we need a welding torch and a steel sheet. Which again, I'm sure I had. Or maybe I didn't. Well, I could have swore I did. Obviously, I've misplaced it. That's fine. Make me a couple of steel sheets. Actually, make me a few and we will go and weld out some of those frames. So print me out 4 so we get rid of the 0.5. There we go. And then to our heat exchanger. And then we'll just weld up these frames. Just that way we can say we're not going to knacker people up. We've got OTD. Right. The exchanger works in a very simple way. You put gas into one slot. You put gas into another slot. And the temperature of those two gases will equalize. It may take a bit of time, but that is basically what it does. I need some red pipe, so I'm going to just borrow some pipe here. Drag some pipe onto that stack. Put that one back, and then I can just carry on with my red pipes. That's my volatile. I'm going to do the same with the oxygen. So I'm going to grab a white pipe, pick up my red pipes, and now I've got white pipes. And let's do this here. We're going to have to go up and over. Actually, no, we're not going to go on up and over. Let me do something that I never do because I hate it. Is I'm going to put pipes in the frame. I can't stand this myself, but I guess it makes it a bit tidier for the sake of the tutorial. But yeah, you can run things through your frames. So now if I wanted to, I could get my steel sheet and I can weld that up. And that pipe is still going to work exactly the same through the frame. It's tidier, yes, I agree. I just don't like not being able to see my stuff. I like being able to see my pipes. And now I can't see down there, and it just tickled me the wrong way. That is all. So, obviously at the moment we've got no heat exchange rate because we don't have any gas in any of these pipes. So you can see there, look, empty, empty. And then our nitrogen also empty. Let's get some ice. Let's make sure you turn your filter on, because obviously we don't want this pipe to explode because if the pressure in there gets too high, it will be a problem. But we can sort that out later. Turn on your ice crushers and put your oxide in your oxygen and put your volatile in your, well, volatile. Because we set them to 0, they process very quickly, as you can see. Oopsie. And you can see there that obviously the ice crusher is releasing its gas. Now, important note that the ice crusher, even though it's technically a separate part of the network, will equalize its pressure with the network. So you can see that the ice crusher is at 252 kilopascals. Nothing's been released, but it's because the pipe is at 252 kilopascals. Just bear that in mind. That if you've got a large amount in here and it's not going, it's probably because you've got a large amount in your pipe. On this side, we're waiting for the filter to do its thing, but you can see there now it's filtering the nitrogen into our black pipe. Very nice. And we have our oxygen in our oxygen pipe. Okay, pretty straightforward. You can see that they're a little bit different temperatures, but that's probably just because of the processing of the ice crusher. But they are going to exchange. This guy is going to make sure that they're at the same temperature. So you can see there it's exchanging around 700 megajoules. Eventually, look, they are going to be the same temperature. And this guy, you're going to wait for him so that your gas mix is perfect. Right, I need more insulated pipes. Because now comes the mixing part. So, oh, I need a gas mixer. That would be a good idea. So here's our gas mixer. Now, we've not touched on this yet. So basically, it has 2 inputs and 1 output. Very simply, you feed 2 gases in and it mixes them. I bet you didn't guess that, did you? So I'm gonna very simply put it there. Okay, that's an okay space. So you've got your two inputs, you've got your output, you've got the little, this is basically the on and off switch. And then you've got a dial which allows you to adjust the mix ratio of each of the inputs. Now again, this only works perfectly if the temperatures are the same. Or you want to go down the advanced route and you can code this mixer to change its ratio based on the temperatures. Again, not going to do that. So, let me connect the oxygen. So if we do that and that, and then we go with the volatile. I only did that for the red pipe. So that goes in there. And then coming out from this, I now want my orange pipe. So what we can do is we'll bring this across. And again, I'm going to break my own rule, but just for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to go down and up again. So we're going to go under the red pipe. I'm never going to like this. It just doesn't sit right with me at all. But yeah, there we go. Take that out. Do that. And then let's ward that frame back up. There we go. So we have our oxygen ice crusher going into the filtration, going into a tank. We have our volatile going into basically the tank system. Both the oxygen and the volatile are hit to the ice crusher. Sorry, not the ice crusher, the gas mixer. Both the oxygen and the volatile are also exchanging their temperature so that they're both always the same. Remember that it can take time depending on how much gas you've got and depending on what temperature it came out of the crusher. So just bear that in mind. The gas mixer is coming out and going into our orange fuel tank. And then we have our black pipe coming out of the filtration, which is just storing our nitrogen. So let's get the mixer connected to power, which we have just over here. And we are pretty much set up to make fuel. Now what I want to do is I want to just go and get a bit more ice because we haven't got much and it's not going to take long for that to be mixed. Have I got any more in here? I do not. Do I have any more in here? I do. Look at me being all prepared. So make sure your filter is on. And stick your oxide into your white one. Stick your volatile into your red one. And then once it's done, I'll just do the same again. One thing to be very careful of this system is that this pipe here is risks getting quite high on pressure. So it's something to be very mindful of. You need to make sure that this filter is on so it can process. And if you keep getting really high, either slow down on how much oxide you're putting in there or increase the volume of this pipe. So we could put a utility on there. Let me quickly go and get one. And I'll just show you. So utility, you're going to want the insulated one because obviously we're outside, so we want to make sure Mars doesn't have any effect. I'll print out 2 of these. Why the hell not? Let's make it a much more, well, a larger volume in there. So that's my first one. And this will be my second one. And remember, we used this before in the greenhouse. All this does, you've got 2. You've got the small one, which uses 1 kit. The longer one, which uses 2 kits. All this is going to do is increase the volume. So it means that the pipe segment will be able to hold much more before it becomes overpressured. I just need some white pipe. So let me do that. Let me put my volatile in here. And then we'll chuck my mining belt back inside. Give me that pipe. Give me more pipe. Connect a pipe. There we go. And we can't just leave that at the top. That's got to be white. But now whenever we put oxide in here, that will be able to hold much more, which is good. It means we're not going to burst our pipes. Remember, when you're not using these, turn them off because they use a lot of power. Just be mindful when you turn them off, they will not release their gas into the network. So that will stay like that when we start taking some of this out. So you'll have to turn it on for that to be released. So we have a bit of oxygen, bit of volatile. Now, time to make fuel. So I don't know if you're going to find this in here. I'm pretty sure it doesn't really tell you. Or you have to look at a certain thing. If it doesn't, then I'll just tell you. But give me a second. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't tell you anywhere, which is a bit annoying. But there are two types of fuel. You've got usual fuel, just your standard fuel that will just combust and create heat. And then you have your kind of super fuel, NOS fuel. There are others that you can use for rockets, but we're not going to touch on them. The normal fuel is the one that we're going to be using, and it is made with 2 volatile and 1 oxide. Why does that ring a bell? Because that is what you've been doing in the furnace. So you've been putting 2 volatile and 1 oxide into here and then combusting it. That's basically your fuel. That's exactly what we're going to be doing here. The other fuel, so the rocket fuel or the super fuel, is a combination of volatile and NOS, and that is a 1-for-1. So for every 1 volatile, you have 1 NOS. Obviously, NOS isn't an ice. You can get ice that has it in, but it's not like an ice for itself. What you'll do later on in the game is you will make your NOS fuel in a certain device, and that will, when you get to that, you'll be blowing things up left, right, and center. But for today, we're doing standard fuel. Excuse me. So, like I said, 2 volatile to 1 oxygen.
Hydration critical.
Chat it. So, you need to check your input. So we've got our input 1 here, and we've got our input 2 here. We know that our input 2 is our oxygen. Okay? When you are changing this, you are adjusting the input 1. The input 2 is just a side effect because they both need to always equal to 100. Okay? So we're adjusting input 1, which is our volatile, and our input 1 needs to be twice as the amount as oxygen. So what you do is 100 divided by 3, it's 33.3, whatever. So if you want 2 of those, you're going to go for about 67%. So let's go for 67. As close as you're going to really get. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could use the labeler and get it closer. Like, you could go if you wanted to 33.334, whatever it is. But I'm just sticking with that. 67% volatile, 33% oxygen. And just double check. Input 1 is 67. Yes, input 1 is my volatile. So the 33% is input 2. Correct, that's my oxygen. Easy peasy. Now, without any automation, make sure that your gases are the same temperature, which if you've been waiting around like we have, you can see that they are. And simply turn on the mixer. You'll now see that we're getting a mix of our volatile and oxygen, and the ratio is perfect. It's exactly what we set. If the temperature was different, then it would not be. You'd get either more volatile or more oxygen. So to make the perfect fuel mix, make sure that the same temperature. Again, to people who I know will comment, I am very well aware there is another way of doing it, but we're not getting into advanced stuff. And no matter how clever people are or how not clever people are, I think that is advanced. That's my opinion. That is what it is. But you've basically made fuel. That is all fuel is. It is just a mix of volatile and O2. It's not its own gas, so don't mix it and expect to see fuel. All you're seeing is 2 gases that when combust create a lot of heat. Now, you're now storing fuel in a tank, which is great. And in this current setup, it'll be absolutely fine. You need to just make sure that this tank never hits 300 degrees C. If that happens, it will auto combust. If I was to somehow heat that pipe up to 300 degrees Celsius, that entire tank is going to combust. And yes, will probably be followed by an explosion. Now we are nowhere near it. We are on we are less than 1 degree Celsius. It's not an issue. It's insulated as well, so nothing should really affect it. But just be very, very careful. If you use any uninsulated pipes on your system, just be warned that depending on the planet that you're on, if it warms that pipe up, get ready to run. But yeah, we're basically making a bomb here. This is what we've done. But that's it. That is fuel mixing at its absolute basic form. There is nothing more to it. You just want to make sure your volatile and your oxygen are the same temperature. Slap on your gas mixer at the right setting, and away you go. We now have fuel. Obviously, later down the line, you're not going to want to use everything. So what you'll end up doing is you'll end up automating it so that you keep yourself so much oxygen, so much volatile. You'll want to make sure that the pressure in the fuel tank isn't too high, and all that kind of stuff. But this is pretty much it for what we were going to do today. So what I'm going to do is, before the next video, I will go and do some ice mining, and I will get a good stockpile of my oxygen and volatile. And I'd recommend you do the same, because next time we are going to start looking into deep mining, because I don't know about you, but the mining can be a little bit tedious. So it would be good if we got some kind of setup built in which it mines for us. And it's something that I want to cover sooner rather than later, because when the update comes out, from what I gather, the deep miners are almost an essential piece of kit. And it's important for you to understand how they work now, before the update, because they've changed basically where you can place them. But you're gonna need them because I think ore has been scattered a little bit more. It's not going to be as easy to find stuff. So we're going to start touching on that next time. It's going to be a little bit of a setup, so it may span a couple of episodes. We'll see. But yeah, if you're playing along, before the next one, make sure you mine plenty of stuff. Get plenty of iron, because you're going to need some steel. Make sure you've got a surplus of copper and gold. Grab yourself some silicon, because you're going to need more pipes. And then, yeah, we will pick up next time. So until then, take care. Bye.